Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, April 15th at 9 o'clock, and I want to welcome everyone to the April board meeting for both the District Disaster Relief Fund and also the District 5130 Rotary Board. So in looking around the screen, I think we have everyone here that is on the board. And so I don't have any guests to welcome. I think that Dirk Slotin, who is the chair of the District Disaster Relief Fund, has been hung up. So I'm going to go ahead and open the District Disaster Relief Fund board meeting as of 9:02 a.m. All right, so I think we'll go ahead and call that to order. I think the first thing, we already had the minutes approved. Is that correct, Mary? Those were approved previously. Okay,
yes.
Perfect. No introduction of guests. And we'll go ahead and scroll down just a little bit. So the financial reports, which you all received a draft of, and maybe I think she's probably, Carol can maybe hopefully pull those up for us. Excellent. Okay, so we've got here kind of an update on the District Disaster Relief Fund. I'll turn it over to Carol to talk a little bit about the financials, and then I'll give you an update on what has transpired with the earthquake relief up in Humboldt County.
Hi there. So we have, hello. So this is our disaster relief fund. This is our statement of financial position as of March 31st. We had $117,000 in the checking account, a little bit of money in PayPal. And that's pretty much it. Nothing super unusual. Here's our balance sheet, and so you can see what's left, and we'll look at the asset sheet in just a minute, so you can see the separation between the income that's come in with donor restrictions and those without donor restrictions. So we've, if anybody has any questions on this, it's not hugely different from what it was last time, except we have a bunch of Humboldt Del Norte grants that have gone out. So we have a loss right now, or funds out of $10,000. If we go on to the asset tracking sheet, so this is, see if we can make it just a little bit bigger. So you can see where we were at 12/31/22. We had $133,000 in the fund, of which you can see this column right here is the net assets with donor restrictions, and here are the counties that those things have been allocated to, and then without donor restrictions is here. So this is separated by month, January, February, and March, and what we've spent. You probably remember that the balance of the Ukrainian calendar fund, which is this column right here, had been sent over to Santa Rosa East Foundation, that $449.41. So we don't have any money holding for Ukraine or the Ukrainian calendars. This is the money right here in the Humboldt Del Norte fund. We had $4,600 left as of March 31st, and Jennifer's going to speak to that. I authorized 2 additional grants for $2,000 each yesterday. So we have in the fund right now $117,000, and you can see the allocation. Mm-hmm. Anyone have any questions on that? Okay.
I think a couple of things to note. If you could go back real quick to the breakdown by county. So one thing that we just constantly need to remember, and I've reminded the AGs numerous times, just to make sure that their club presidents are aware, and maybe Tom, it's something to kind of think about as we go along. I did get an email from after District Training Assembly from someone up in where were they? They were in Arcata, that asked about if there was money available in the District Disaster Relief Fund for disaster education and such. That as you can see, there is still money that's set aside for each of the counties. So I think it's important for the counties to remember that there is disaster relief fund that is restricted by counties. So for example, you've got Mendocino, you've got Napa, Sonoma, et cetera. So there are funds that are set aside should a disaster happen. And I believe that we've spoken in the past at this board level that they could also be using it for other disaster related expenses. So I don't know if anyone has any comments on that or feedback. Carol?
So they can use that for disaster education?
I believe that we had talked about that with Dirk, or not with Dirk, with Bert Terreri, the attorney, when he came on, that it can be used for any type of disaster preparedness or relief.
That's
really good to know. Mm-hmm.
Really, really super important. I bet that's, I didn't know that. So that's really good.
Yeah, so that's an important component to remember. The other important thing to note with regards to the Ukraine money, I think that it's really important that as a District 5130 disaster relief board, that we be very careful about, in the, kind of going forward. We want to make sure that we keep it. I think this fund, and I would be interested in knowing the input of the rest of the board, that we keep the funds specifically for purposes within our district, because we could be opening up a very difficult accounting process if we were using this fund as a funnel for earthquake relief in Turkey, or other types of non-District 5130 disaster relief work. The work is very, very important, but I almost feel, at least my opinion and my recommendation is that we keep this district disaster relief fund for district related disasters in the future. So I think that that's an important thing for us to maybe have a conversation about with regards to the financials.
I would agree. Just it just opens up so many other avenues and so many, different, I guess, options that might muddle things for us going forward. It's just, I think you create it for a specific purpose, and the more we stick to that, the better. I know we've used it for different stuff in the past, but or maybe just once or twice, I guess. But still, I would agree with what you said.
Yeah, I also agree, and notified the Healdsburg Club that that we were shifting. They had already made the decision to go with Santa Rosa East West, and so consequently, yeah, and just letting them know that we just can't be in a position to try and do this. But I know that we stepped in and we did the Ukraine calendars initially because they had no set plan. So I think this is good going forward to talk to any requests that come in to say, no, let's try and work this out with another club and see what we can do with the foundation there. So I like that idea a lot.
Is it in the bylaws?
There's nothing that specifically states that in the bylaws. It's not restrictive saying that we can't, and it's not restrictive saying that we have to. It's very open-ended with regards to that. The Bert Terreri, who is a member of the Healdsburg Club, who is also an attorney that has represented it and still continues to, his office represents us on this district disaster relief fund. There's going to be, which I'll talk about after we approve the financials, there will be an annual session that for the first board meeting of the next Rotary year, and maybe that's an appropriate time to discuss that in further detail as to whether or not an adjustment needs to be made to the bylaws. So because right now it doesn't really specifically preclude it, doesn't say that we have to do it. So I just think that if we continue down the path, where do you draw the line? Do you use this as a fundraising funnel for disaster relief around the globe, or do we, try to make sure we can keep our arms wrapped around it? Because there are reporting requirements. Carol?
I agree with what somebody said earlier, which is in our case, we had a situation where we had a couple clubs that were sister clubs in Ukraine. And so they built on that relationship. And so I think that the clubs can do that at a club level and have people donate to their foundation and then funnel the money. But then on an overall global basis, that's what RI is for, right? That's where you can encourage people to give directly to RI.
Right.
And we as a district are just a little cog in that, the bigger push should be through RI.
Thank you. All right, and then
Yeah,
I'll just.
I would
Go ahead.
to that,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, just to that comment for edification, most clubs do not have a foundation.
Mhm.
So you think like every club would, and even our club has a foundation, but it's very specific. It can only be used locally. So
Right.
every club is different.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, I think it definitely warrants a discussion from from this board component as to where that looks like going forward. And I'll speak to what's going to happen in July here in just a minute. But I do think it's not anything that's happening. You make a decision at this moment, but I do think it's something that needs to be talked about. And so as part of the financials, before we ask for an approval on those, I do want to give an update on the Humboldt Del Norte. And Carol has listed, these are all of the grants that have been given out. If you remember back in December, an earthquake hit the Ferndale, Rio del Scotia area of Humboldt County. We called an emergency meeting and of this body had a board approval to move $25,000 from the district disaster relief unrestricted funds over to Humboldt County's column for purposes of earthquake relief up there. Immediately within a couple of days, they had $5,000 of $50 gift cards that were handed out on December 23rd, a couple days before Christmas. Coast Central Credit Union donated all of the activation fees on those cards. So the $5,000, 100% of it went to those earthquake folks. And then immediately the committee up there was created with two area governors, Ian Schatz and Carly Robbins, both from, again, outside of the Ferndale area, which makes it better because you've got a little bit easier logistical impact there. And then a committee was formed with members of the Ferndale and Fortuna areas, and they immediately began the business grants, the business recovery grants that we had done a lot of during the fires. So those applications were immediately opened up, and you can see here on this list, these are all of the grants that have been given out to date. So a total of the $54,000. And I believe this does not include, this $54,000 doesn't include the gift cards, right, Carol?
Correct, it does not.
Yeah, so the $54,000, and those were the original $25,000 plus the Humboldt Area Rotary Foundation, which is the disaster relief. I think I got that right. I got the name of it right. Up in the Humboldt County area, moved $30,000 from that fund into our district disaster relief fund. It takes a while, that particular fund takes some time to get the money moved over, but they moved over 30. And then of course we received additional donations through PayPal and check from Rotarians and non-Rotarians throughout the district. So we came down to the last, there were last 7 grant applications and businesses that had been, severely affected by the earthquake, and we ran out of money and in that fund. So instead of coming back to this body to ask for unrestricted funds, we basically hit the pavement and we received another $4,700, I think, that came through from PayPal donations from a direct ask that I sent out. And then we picked up the phone and we called Coast Central Credit Union, and Coast Central Credit Union is cutting a check for $8,500, which makes up the remaining amount that is needed to fund those last 7. So I'm actually going to be up in that area at the end of the month. And so we're going to go do a big check presentation, give Coast Central Credit Union some, some good press media. Cindy Denbo is going to help us with a press release. And then of course we'll have some, all throughout the district kind of thank you for them to step up. So they've picked up the last of it. So that grant program has been closed. The grant application started to slow down. So we closed those. It was just those last 7 that we didn't have the funding for, and Coast Central Credit Union basically without even question came in and said, yes, we will write the check and we'll finish that off. So it's been a really successful program. it's the true essence of what this fund is all about. 100% of the donations go back to those folks. And I don't know if you've been following along on the Facebook page and some of the messages, but it's truly made a difference in the business community and the lives of the folks up there that have been hit so hard by that earthquake. So that's kind of an update there. That's the 54,000 plus we've got another chunk that is going to be coming out, but it's 100% funded. Any questions on the earthquake part of the financials?
No, but thank you. I know how much it meant to the people up here to have that happen so fast, especially with the approval of the debit cards and handing it out right away, and then just the recognition that they got and the money that they got for that. I know, just especially with Rio Dell, and I'll keep this short, they got hit with 2 different earthquakes, which staggered the way they could get federal funding. And it was a real disaster for them, and it still kind of is. I think 70 plus houses were red tagged, and it's still ongoing. But just it was a real phenomenal effort, and I know it's resonated and really well received up here. So thank you again.
Yeah, and it's been wonderful watching the Rotarians. They did the same thing where Rotarians were going out and doing site visits, doing check presentations. Thank you, Carol, for making that work as opposed to it just being an ACH into somebody's business account. The checks were being sent up so that a Rotarian could actually go and present that check to the business owner. And that's where a lot of our heart comes from with this, is that when we're able to get the Rotarians out there and be able to meet some of that. So the District Disaster Relief Fund, I think, is working the way that it's supposed to, and very, very proud of the work that the Rotarians up there have done. So any other
Hey,
questions?
Jennifer.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Any other questions with regards to the financials for the disaster?
For this project, did you have any success stories that you could, or vignettes that you could send me so I could write up a story on this? I think I talked about this
Cindy Dunbo, I know, is your partner in the north, and I'm not sure, you might check with her, because I know that we've sent, there's been quite a few that I've sent out. There were some Facebook posts, and and Ian's working on a couple others as well. But yeah, if you could help Cindy with that would be fantastic. And so I'll spin back around and send you the email with some photos and perfect
stories. Yeah. I know she's been having trouble typing because of she has a situation with her eyesight. So I just,
if you could help her, that'd be great.
Help her. Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other question on the financial reports for the District Disaster Relief Fund? If none, I need a motion to approve.
I'll motion to approve.
Dustin,
I'll second.
And Dirk, thank you for the second. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? None here.
I have one question, or more of the flooding in in southern Monterey County. Do you know anybody there that is doing stuff over there?
Yeah, so the district governor, and I think put some stuff on our Facebook page. The district, my counterpart down there, it took them a long time because they didn't have a disaster relief fund at all, even though we've talked about it a lot with my district governor compadres, and she came back and said, yeah, now I understand. So they do have a district fund set up in Monterey for the flooding. And so I can certainly provide that information for sure.
Yeah, it's just having the system ready to go.
Yep.
It's good.
Yeah, it took them several weeks because I kept emailing her and asking her if they had a fund set up yet, and it took them quite a while. So, but I can provide that to you for sure, Dirk. Okay, so we did an earthquake relief. I sort of incorporated into the financials because it did apply for that. I think we've talked about the earthquake relief efforts. Very proud of the crew up there. And then the last thing just is, this isn't necessarily an agenda item, but I do want it as part of the minutes. I did have a conversation with Bert Terreri, who again is a Rotary member in Healdsburg, and he is our legal counsel for this District Disaster Relief Fund. I've asked that he utilize the district's the secretary email, because once a year, and it needs to happen every year in the July meeting, there needs to be some conflict of interest forms signed, and those have to be done once a year. So that will be as part of the July meeting, where we'll make sure that we get those forms signed. But other than that, I think everything is going great. If anyone else has anything for the Disaster Relief Fund. Okay, if not, I need a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Dustin, thank you. Who was the second?
Mike.
Michael. Thank you, Mike. Mike is the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And the meeting of the Disaster Relief Fund is closed. Thank you. Okay, Doug, it's all you.
Well, thank you, Jen. Good morning, everyone. This is great. This is my last official board meeting.
Wow.
I know.
Thank you for all of
It's
your
been-
dedication over the last 85 years, Doug.
Yeah, it's been a good
Bye,
run.
everybody.
Yeah.
Thank
So
you, Dirk.
let's
Thanks
see.
for being here.
But Dirk,
We will call the meeting to order, and again, we have no guests. So let's start with a review of the financials.
Okay. Here we go. So this is our balance sheet, pretty straightforward. There's money in the bank. The bank statements have all been reconciled. The only thing that you'll see on here that is of interest is the 17,000 event deposit, which I believe is going to be discussed a little bit later on. Down here for liabilities, we have, this is just payables that are, sloshed between March and April for payment through bill.com. We had a small balance on the credit card. We had some youth exchange money that got put into the wrong account, so that got moved over. And that's it. Any questions on the balance sheet?
Can I ask a question?
No accounts receivable. I'm sorry, go ahead, Jennifer.
Oh, good job, Carol. That, I don't know if that's happened very often where we've had no accounts receivable.
Yeah, we haven't had. I'm good on not having accounts receivable. So here's our profit and loss for the first. So this is the first 9 months of the Rotary year. We have dues. So this is the summary. Dues. We have district conference registrations coming in. Obviously, this is a cutoff at the end of March. Foundation dinner and the reception tickets for Australia are selling nicely. RILA income, you're not going to see much of that yet because we're going to actually invoice for the clubs for the RILA participants this year. And I'm going to be working with Cassie to actually do that in the next couple of weeks. Here's youth exchange income.
Can I ask you a question real quick about youth exchange income, Carol? So that 61,000, is that, and even on their balance sheet that they had the 61,000, is that and this is just I don't know the answer. Is that a normal, do they kind of carry that balance normally, or what is that big chunk from?
That's not a carrying a balance. That's excuse me. That's income. So it's Western Safari money that they've collected this year. It's incoming and outbound student money. It's for reveal night. It's just all the fees. There's a big chunk in there right now for the golf tournament.
Okay.
So we'll look at that. I've got a separate set of financial statements for youth exchange, which I've decided to start doing. And we'll be presenting that in just a minute. But what we do is youth exchange has a separate set of books. And so youth exchange, Western Safari, and Rotex are in a separate, completely different general ledger. And I book one journal entry to pull that activity over into this set of books once a quarter. So this just ties to their number over there, but the detail is over there. We'll look at it in just a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Here's the reserves adjustment for in the DG line, which stuff that's been paid back and gone out. Here's the Ken Leadership Development Program revenue. Here's district training assembly, that's partial of the income, because again, it spanned months. Here's the RI subsidy for this year, which was 14.8. The district grants, the money that we got from the district, 102,000. Here's the expenses for our DG line. So this is club visits, international convention. You guys can all look at this. I'm not going to speak to anything directly unless you have specific questions on this going through. Foundation expenses, district conference expenses. Let me just say something about the credit card and merchant fees. When possible, the bylaws call for breaking out the credit card fees and allocating them as expenses for each event. So in other words, somebody goes to the district conference and pays for their registration through DACDB. I take that credit card fee, and that's what you see right here, this credit card merchant fee expense. Okay, so that's fees that are allocated toward the district conference, and that goes for everything at all events. Here's district training stuff, Ken Moulton leadership expense, pets training expense. We have a couple other bills due to come in on some of this stuff. But this is what it was in March. Here's general. So bank charges and credit card fees, software, web page.
One quick question before you go too much further on the software. I know we had talked before, and maybe somebody can remind me, Doug. Maybe you might remember. Do we review our district software annually to make sure that we're still signed up for the right stuff and not paying for things that we're not using? Do we have a process or a procedure?
I do not recall a process.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there's a process, but stuff bubbles up for these random subscriptions and whatnot throughout the past year. I know Ashley and I canceled a few last year that had just been ongoing. I can't remember off the top of the head what they are, but I don't believe there's a formal process, though I do know that there's probably some stuff still out there that we're paying for or on the line for.
So would it make sense for the July board meeting, or even prior to that, maybe, because I'm sure that there could be detail, and Carol, we don't need it for this meeting, but breakdown of in the last 12 months, what have been the softwares that the district has paid for, and maybe that's a finance committee, take a look at it to begin with, and see if any of those need to be cleared off. And it almost seems like that should happen once a year. Would that be?
That's good. I'll put it down for the finance committee to look at. I will tell you that there isn't a bunch of extraneous stuff in there. It's the bill.com that we get billed monthly. It's the QuickBooks Online. We have to pay by company. So we pay 3 times, once for the district, once for disaster relief, once for youth exchange. And that's to 800, 900 per pop. We pay for DACDB, so there's, but I think that a review of that would be a good idea.
Yeah, I just think it maybe as part of the annual financial review, maybe part or something, but it needs to probably be something that happens once a year just to make sure.
Yeah. Good. Okay, this is all normal. You notice that there's no insurance in there. That's because the insurance gets billed in June. And so that's coming, that's about 4,000. That'll come. Here's what's happened with, so this 8,500 is 8,000 that the district paid to Youth Exchange as a contribution to Youth Exchange. 500 was for software for managing the Youth Exchange stuff. We run the software charges for Youth Exchange, Western Safari, etc., through the district. So the district is picking up the admin fees, okay, for those, so that the programs don't carry the admin fees for their own stuff. Okay. And then Youth Exchange has had 29,000 in expenses so far. These are your special projects. So the environmental grants, the club branding support, public image and branding support grants. Here's the $50,000 that went to Polio Plus. Okay, so Our upside right now is 152,000. Any questions on that so far? I'm moving ahead. Here's the breakdown by class. So this is the breakdown by the DG line, grants, programs, and reserves. So you can see that things end up in, hopefully in the columns where they belong. As people review these, if you guys review these preparatory to having this meeting and you see something that's in the wrong column, please always feel free to reach out to me and say, Carol, wrong column. And I'll move it.
Does anybody have any questions on these?
Okay, no questions? Okay, that's it on those financial statements, and then I'll go show you the.
I'm just going to make a quick little comment on the grants. Where the deadline for both the public image and the environmental grants is May 31st, and there's more of those are all getting ready to start coming in as well. So while those numbers look a little bit low for the grants, they'll start probably picking up here because Rotarians love to wait till the last minute.
Okay, we're going to be looking at schedules for those in just a second. These are the youth exchange financials. So this is what the balance sheet looks like. Western Safari, Rotex Youth Exchange. That was $150 as a receivable for a sponsorship for the golf tournament, and it actually was received yesterday. So there are no liabilities or anything there. That's the balance sheet. Here's the, so this is mostly application fees, so that's inbound and outbound stuff. Here's the $8,000 that came in from the district. Here's golf income. And I notice on here that they've got their registration fees all in kind of a pile of 30,000. We'll see in the next sheet that it's broken out by class. I'm going to suggest to them they actually have different accounts. So they have a Western Safari income and they have specific accounts. I'm going to ask him to do that for next time. Here's some expenses. Any questions on this? Okay, here it is by class. I put it in an Excel sheet because it was just too big doing the so this they've brought in 17,000 for the golf tournament so far. They've collected 25,000 for Western Safari. And you can see the other numbers here. So their golf expense so far is $1,000. Okay, any questions? You good on that? Okay, here's the, do we want to see these? Here's the environmental grants. So we're keeping a sheet of who's done what. And as Jennifer said, I think that these are all going to start coming in shortly. And this is the public image and branding grants. So these are the clubs up here that have done some pretty interesting things. So we're keeping track of what people are using that money for. And that's fun, but we still have a bunch of money available there to go out. So that's really it on the financials in terms of approving the financials. There's program budgets, but I think that's a separate thing that the board needs to approve.
Any questions, anybody? If not, could we get a motion to accept the financials as presented?
I'll move to accept.
Is that Dustin?
Jim, you can have that one.
I'll second it, Dustin.
All right. There's a first and a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried.
So I have a question. I have a question for the finance committee because I'm kind of curious. So the public image and branding grants, that was 12,500 that we moved from reserves because after the last few years of COVID, there was a bunch of money that was sitting in the reserves. And so at the beginning of this budgetary year, we moved 12,500 over for the clubs to do the $250 grants. So, not all of them are going to do it. If there is money so the cutoff for those public image grants is May 31st. So the clubs have to have done something within that period of time. If there is money left in that budget, would the district be able to use it to update some signage, for events and banners, that kind of thing?
I would think that the board could approve that. I would not do it without the board approving it, but I don't see why they couldn't.
If it's public image, public image type.
Because otherwise the money is going to revert back to the district reserves.
Mhm.
So, I mean, just let it revert back to the district reserves and then open a new vote for a project to do something. Because I know that Sam McMillan keeps telling me that all the club banners that he used at the district assembly and district conference, that it's time to upgrade them.
Yeah. Yeah. And we had talked about that before. Remember, I wanted another 12,500 to update all of the the district, the club banners for district events and stuff, because they're pretty old and pretty tattered, but we couldn't kind of come up to a determination as to what type of banner. So it got tabled, but maybe that's the best course of action, is to let whatever is not used go back into the reserves. And then if Tom wants to propose a request for updating, we did update a little bit. We did purchase a couple of Rotary District 5130 pop-up banners that could go to, pre-pets and just because there hasn't been any, there's no signage, and that's really not very professional for our district. So, okay. So I just wanted to ask that question.
Just an update to yesterday I was with Sam and gave him 4 of the new club banners. So Christine, you guys are covered now. And these are the ones that his preference and his team's preference is to continue with the felt banners for the major events that we do. So he now has those 4. The only thing that we have in question right now is just with regard to Rotaract, whether or not we do individuals for the individual Rotaract clubs, or we have one Rotaract banner that we can actually put felt with the names on that one banner. And it's really, that comes down to a question of whether or not we're going to recognize, I think it's July 1, that these are now recognized as official clubs, dues paying clubs. And if that's the case, then probably we ought to allocate dollars to be able to buy individual banners for those clubs. But there is a way that we can do it, that if we go through another scenario like we did where we lost all of our Rotaract due to the colleges, except for the one, then we could do this to where we buy blank Rotaract and then just attach an individual name onto each blank one. That way each has their own recognition on what goes on. Additionally, we do have these 2 large A-frames that we picked up that promote the event going on, and we do have a rotary balloon that's portable that can be used right now. Currently it's sitting over at my office, but it's easy to pick it up and move it around. It's just a bucket. It's kind of like the one that Wolf had. It's exactly like the one that Wolf had. So we have that going on. So we made some inroads for trying to do some things to promote it. And by the way, Sam brought over 2 different pull-ups that are functional. We just did a quick fix on one, but they're functional also. So we have 2 pull-ups, the full map of it. Plus we have the 2 brand new Rotary District 5130 banners that represent more of the entire landscape of the district. So those are the things that we have in place right now.
So Doug, would the process on this would be to between now and tell me if I'm wrong, because I don't know, but the process would be that create a district branding request plan and would that be like at the July board meeting that would be approved to or discussed and adjusted or then approved to pull money from the reserves to update whatever needs to be updated based upon a request, probably coming through Tom, right?
Yeah, so since it's not in Tom's budget, which is already approved, it
Right.
would have to be from the reserves and it would require a board vote, but it's not that's not a hard thing to do.
Right.
Come up
Okay.
with a plan and the board can then decide whether it's worthy and, I mean, you got the money, so that's not the issue.
Okay. So maybe Tom and Christine, if that's something that, and Jim, if that's something we want to work on, to come up with a budget, and a recommended plan, then we can bring that back. Does that sound good?
Got it.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's probably time. Awesome.
All right, let's see. Yeah, you kind of went over, did you go over the Ryla draft budget yet? I don't
Not
think
yet.
so.
How
All
about,
right,
yeah,
so let's hit the program budgets.
And these are required to be approved every year, correct, Doug?
Correct.
Mhm.
Any program is supposed to submit a budget and have it approved before they accept any money or spend any money.
Mhm.
so
So-
they kind of came up with a couple of different scenarios for the number of, based on the number of campers they thought that they were going to have, and they feel like they're on track to meet their 55 camper goal going forward. So bringing in approximately $41,000 worth of revenue with $38,000 worth of expense. So ending up positive.
Yeah. Any questions on this budget? If not, we technically should vote to approve it. So do we have a motion to accept the proposed budget?
I'll make a motion that we approve this, the budget for Ryla.
Thank you, Tom. Second.
Jennifer seconds it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimous. The next one is Dustin's estimated reserves.
Oh, wait, youth exchange.
Oh, well, that's right, we have youth exchange too. All right, thank you.
Got Youth Exchange and Rotex.
So the good news is it's revenue net neutral.
The only,
And-
the only thing that I would like to see added on this is I would like to see either a separate budget for Western Safari, since Western Safari is a pretty chunky cash in and out. So I'd kind of like to see separate line items for that. Other than that,
Do you want to see it enough that we should send it back to them and ask them to do that?
no.
All right. Then is that something that someone should recommend for next year?
Yeah, Carol will recommend it for next year.
I
Yeah.
And
would
she can even ask for, I mean, that's something that is a subcategory on this budget. It's not changing any of the numbers. It's just giving a little more detail, which I think she can request for
Right.
just reporting purposes.
I imagine, Carol, that's because that Western Safari is a heavy cash in and out.
Right.
Yeah. See,
And
it's
one
a
of the-
unique one.
Yes, it is unique. And one of the things that the board asked for last time was to be able to see the detail on the programs, because we haven't presented that before, at least not in the meetings that I participated in. So to present the program income and expenses. And so I will do that. And also for next year, I've been talking to Jennifer and Tom both about this, is I want to put the budget in QuickBooks for the youth exchange programs so that we can run it right out of QuickBooks and have the budget in there on a monthly or quarterly basis. So we can have some some realistic budget to actual numbers every board meeting. I think that that's a good thing, and it's a reality check that everybody can see where we are.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So I'll move to approve the youth exchange budget, proposed
Thank you,
budget.
Jen. Second,
Second.
thank you, Tom. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then we have, oh, so that carries, then we have Rotex. As you can see, again, we're at least making money here, 800.
Mhm. So
Any
is everybody on this
questions?
call? Michael, do you know what Rotex is? Does everybody on this call know what Rotex is?
No, I'm not aware of Rotex.
Go ahead, Doug.
Well, I mean, basically, as far as I know, it's just a, you know, the one event they have, right, each year?
Yeah, it's the returning
Yes.
exchange students. So we
Yeah.
send exchange students out, and when they come back that year, when they come back, they have some requirements, like they're coming to district conference, and but it's when they come back after being abroad for a year, they're called Rotex.
Oh,
Right.
cool.
So it's just a one-time type event thing. So anyway, any questions on this?
Well, this is just a general question. On these budgets, do we ever put in what their reserves or cash balances might be? So, you know, so they would know that they have a certain amount of reserves that they might want to spend, that we're just not sitting on a bunch of cash for this program.
The cash balance is shown on the balance sheet for each one of these, so they can track their, all of these have their own checking account, and they have their own area on the financial statement, so they can always see not only what their P&L is. As of next year, they'll be able to see their budget to actual all the time, and they can see their cash balance too.
And then if they need to, I think his question too is that how do they access their reserves from the standpoint of this budget? Do they have to get approval to access those reserves, or?
There are no reserves. It's just they have money. The idea for these programs is not that they're stockpiling money to be used 5 years from now, but that they, you know, there's all of these programs are meant to be a net zero kind of a thing. So they're supposed to be bring in 20,000, spend 20,000. And the money that they have extra is just kind of sloshing, but it's not really a formal reserve thing. Some years they may spend a little bit more, but that's why we try to do accurate budgeting so that we plan for that. Because if we have a bunch of money in the bank, then we don't need to charge as much for a ticket, do we?
Yeah. Well, it's just a planning tool so they can see that. And I also see they have $500 going to save to reserve. I'm not sure if that's just moving money to a reserve, but I think it's just more information on the budget so that for planning purposes.
Mhm.
That may be another way to say contingency, but I don't know. I haven't done a dive into this, but I will be working with them, with the youth exchange people, as we put this budget in for next year.
Good.
Cool, thank you. Good question.
Any other questions? Okay, if not, do we have a motion to accept?
I'll motion to accept.
Thank you, Dustin. A second?
I'll second it.
Is that Christine?
Yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, motion carried. And then we have the reserves from Dustin's year. And keep in mind, this is not the official reconciliation. I was about to use the word audit, but we don't use that anymore. It's not the official reconciliation, but it's a very good guesstimate at where we're at right now.
That's a very good way to put it, Doug. It's a pretty good guesstimate. So there is a formula in our bylaws that tell us how much we have to maintain in our reserves at any time, and the calculations You can see over here under comments how much we have to keep. So we take a look at what is in reserve savings and checking. We take, I'm not going to read this. You guys can read it. So you take, there's formulas, 50% of this, 50% of that, and whatever it is. And you come out with whether you're over or short or wherever you are. And for example, in Doug's year, we had a huge excess, and that's why he was able to designate money for Polio Plus. We don't know exactly where we're going to end up because Jennifer still has a lot of expenses to come in the fourth quarter of her year. So we'll see where we are in terms of actually physically moving money back into reserves or not. I went over this with Ashley, and we did this together, and I said, so my kind of feeling is that we sit tight and wait and see what happens at the end of, in the next couple of months. And she said, yeah, that's her feeling too. She'd like to she suggested adding a formula at the bottom that actually looks at our cash in the operating account and what we anticipate are the additional expenses to be expended during the fourth quarter. And put that into the calculation, but we didn't do that this time. So I'm presenting it because we needed to present it to the board within 3 months of the tax return being filed.
So to get to the bottom line really fast, with what you anticipate from Dustin's unused funds, you would have approximately 65,000 of reserve money that the board has discretion to use?
No.
45?
It's 45.
Okay,
So 45,000 is estimated reserve from the 2021-22 Rotary year that wasn't
Okay.
used from the budget, right? Is that the correct way to
Correct.
say that? Okay.
and so then there's also 20,740 right above it.
Mhm.
Right, as of right now.
Okay,
As of right now. So, but let me caution you, this is before we have all the district training expenses in there, before we have district conference expense, it doesn't take into account anything with the budget right now. And
Okay.
that's why Ashley and I were thinking we really need to look at what our current situation is to see what we can allocate, what we should put into and out of reserves.
Which we're
Okay.
not doing anything in or out of reserves right now. This was more informational to kind of get an idea, right, of
Exactly.
what Dustin's excess is for last year.
Yeah.
okay.
This is information.
Good. So we have kind of an idea of information there.
Correct.
So,
Any questions?
yeah, so we anticipating the fourth quarter expenses to be close to $20,000 or in that amount. Or if it went over the 20, would it come out of the 45,000 that's sitting in Dustin's unused funds?
We have money that's going to be additional funds that are going to be coming in for district conference revenue and sponsorships. We have money that's going to go out because very little has been paid for the district conference for this year. So that's going to be coming out. We have additional stuff, the whole thing of fourth quarter. So
I will speak to district conference because that's obviously a huge in and out, right? So I'm keeping track of the budget on that. That budget is going to, because I've been sleuthing around and getting sponsorships and all kinds of stuff. So from a net standpoint, the district conference is going to be really close to being net neutral.
Yeah, so basically they're supposed to be net neutral. Conferences,
supposed to
training
be.
assemblies,
Right.
foundation dinners, they're all supposed to support themselves.
But sometimes that doesn't happen that way. But the district conference is probably the biggest fourth quarter expense, and that one is going to be pretty, it's going to be I'm scrambling around. It's going to be pretty net neutral. So to answer your question, Michael, is I think what you're getting at is that is there going to be a bunch of big expenses that are not going to be covered from other sources this year? And the district conference is probably the biggest one, and that one's going to be pretty close to, as best I can, to keeping it net neutral.
Any other questions? So this is a document we actually don't have to vote on. It was more of an informational document, as far as I could discern on that one. So let's see. Next up is a change to the credit card processor.
So I alluded to this in the last board meeting and said we were looking at changing our gateway and the backend processors we use to accept funds through DACDB. I've done a little bit more research in that. We can dramatically save money, but by the time I got it together this year, we were already collecting money for district training assembly and the Australian reception. And I didn't want to change in the middle of doing anything. So I'm going to wait until after we change over, and probably do it in July. And we'll be saving, hundreds of dollars annually, maybe, as much as $1,000 annually with different credit card fees. Nothing that you guys have to do. It's just it happened.
Thank you for all your work on that, Carol. She's put hours and hours and hours into that. And with as much as we're doing, especially now with credit cards for all of these events and such, it's a pretty significant savings. So thank you for getting onto that, Carol. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Good job.
It's one of those unsung hero things that nobody ever sees. Credit card fees are buried. So thank you.
Well, it's interesting, going back to when I first started this journey and watch how different people have come along and added to their role. So whether it was, Ashley to Carol, or whether Mary coming on, different people continue to move the ball down the field, doing a good job.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you.
All right, last item.
So this is an issue that came up with the a kind of a mix-up with the Registry of Charitable Trusts, which is done through the Department of Justice, State of California. And we have to file paperwork every year to register with the state of California as a charitable trust. And someplace in the last couple of years, some signals got crossed, and we ended up with them saying, you're not legitimate, you're not a charitable trust, you're not in compliance. And I went, what? That can't be right. Anyway, Ashley and I have worked on this, and Ashley actually sent a wonderful letter to the state of California, and we got a response back. We're working through it. Some things got misapplied. We actually had a payment that we made recently that was applied to a district governor who was district governor back when 5130 and 5150 were joined. And so we had an address. I got this thing in the mail from somebody who, and this past district governor had passed away in 2014 and was district governor a million years ago. Anyway, we're straightening it out, but I'm just bringing to the board's attention that as of right now, we're loosey-goosey on our status, and I'm working to resolve that. So anyway, just think positive thoughts about paperwork and the bureaucracy.
Thank you, Carol. Any questions on that? They're kind of self-explanatory. All right. Are there any other issues for this meeting? And if not, could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You have a motion carried. Meeting closed at 10 a.m.
Who did
Yeah.
the second? Was that Tom who seconded it?
Yeah, it was Tom Boylan.
Thank you.
Back to you,
And
Jen.
thank you, Doug, for your year. He's going back to get some coffee. Thank you so much for all your help with the finance committee. And you guys want to keep rolling, or does anybody need a break? All right,
I'm good.
we're just going to keep
Keep
going.
rolling.
We're
Yeah.
going to keep going. Okay, so with that, I'm going to open the final meeting here, which is the District 5130 Board of Directors meeting as of whatever time this is. This is 10 o'clock on April 15th. So we'll go ahead and get that open. No guests to introduce. The minutes from the January 21st meeting were approved virtually, so you all had received those, and those were approved. And we need to get a motion to accept the financial report submitted by the Finance Committee.
Make a motion, we approve the financial report submitted by the Finance Committee.
Thank you, Tom. I need a second.
Second.
Thank you, Michael, for the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. So what I think, do we still have a, Mary, do we still have a quorum here with Dustin? Not
We
voting?
need 5 people, 5 voting members to have a quorum. So 1, 2, 3. Yes, we do.
4 or 5. Okay. I'm just wondering at this point, just for this discussion, if I maybe Dustin, you might want to hop off.
Okay.
Just exclude yourself. I'll text you when you come back on. That way, I think that's appropriate. Does anybody disagree with me that Doug, Tom, anyone? Okay. You guys agree that maybe we can have him hop off for this discussion?
See you in a little bit, Dustin.
Okay. I'll text you when you come back on. Okay. Actually, did he just mute himself? And okay. Do you guys want? There he goes. Okay. So I just think that this is appropriate. And then we can bring him back on before any vote is made, I guess. But so there is a and I'll go ahead and lead the discussion on this. So Dustin was during the district governor line, as a district governor nominee, as a district governor elect, and as a district governor, there is money in the budget every year to pay for travel to the international convention. And as we know, there were 2 conventions that were canceled due to COVID. So Dustin was unable to attend those 2. Now there has been discussion. I was supposed to flip these, but I didn't. So sorry, Carol. There was some discussion with the DG line about changing how the allotments are done for international convention. As far as instead of it being a line item per year, that it could be a bucket that the DG line could then choose which conventions that they wanted to go to, because some are more expensive than others. And we're going to have that discussion here in a little bit. But Dustin is wanting to attend the Melbourne convention. And again, he was unable to attend 2 of them. And he submitted expense reimbursements for the reimbursement for a flight and a hotel for the international convention. The bylaws currently do not allow for a past district governor to have their expenses covered. A couple of years ago, there was an approval done by the board for Kathy Flampson as an immediate past district governor to attend the Houston convention. And that was approved by the board for her to do that because she had missed convention due to COVID. So there has been a request from Dustin to approve that expenditure for him to have his flight and his registration and his hotel covered up to that allotment that would have been given to him to attend one of the conventions during the COVID years. So that's what's on the play. And Doug, I will have you speak to anything that I missed in that.
What is the requested amount?
Can I say that right now, to my understanding, he's just requesting airfare and registration. It comes out to about $2,400.
I mean, I've heard of numerous districts throughout the zones that that are trying to accommodate those who did not have an opportunity. This might be your opportunity here, Doug. But I mean, I've heard, of numerous districts that have gone out of their way to try and give that opportunity to somebody who served. And, it sounds like it's a very charitable situation, and maybe it is something that based on his reserves, potential reserves that he has, that we'd have the dollars to be able to allocate to this.
So, Jen, just to kind of round out a little the history, I took over as district governor July 1st of 2020, approximately 3 months after everything shut down due to COVID. And at that time, I, like most people, thought this was a unique situation that, no one thought COVID was going to become what it did become at the very outset. And so Kathy Flamson, who's my predecessor, was not able to have a district conference. That got canceled, as well as Hawaii got canceled. I think that was the one she would have gone to. Yeah, Hawaii. So I proposed in the July board meeting of 2020 that we allot $5,000 so that Kathy and Jim could go to the next convention. In fact, I was thinking it would probably be next year. Well, that was Taiwan. That didn't happen either. So, I mean, when I did it, and the board did approve it. I looked at it as a one-off, a unique thing that would never happen again. So yes, I missed, Hawaii and Taiwan. Dustin missed Hawaii and Taiwan. I never said anything about it. I'm supportive of this with one concern, is the optics of it. How does the 2,000 Rotarians of our district, if even one or a couple somehow thought that, the DG line was an exclusive club approving money outside the budget to have people travel, I would not want to offend anybody. Now, I totally understand what happened to Dustin, because it happened to me. So I'm supportive of it in concept. That was my only concern, is the optics of it.
I'd go back to his
The money-
reserves.
Let's, Jim, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, Tom, I think I was gonna say the same thing as you. Wouldn't this come out of the reserves anyway? And also, I would think he would get the full stipend, not just for his travel and registration. That's my feeling.
Michael, Christine, any comment?
Well, these items were budgeted and circumstances caused his ability not to attend. So I would think we would just adhere to the budget that was approved back in those times and just move those forward to the new conferences.
Okay, thank you. Christine, any comment?
I'm kind of in agreement with Doug on the optics, but I do, it's part of, the benefit of serving as district governor. Not a promise, because things change and look what happened. It was unprecedented, but I don't know. I'm sort of on the fence, to be honest. I personally don't look at it as an issue, but I've got a certain perspective, right, as a future district governor, and the expectations of some of the benefits I'll be able to, participate in. Not that that's the reason that you'd want to be district governor, but you know what I'm saying.
So if the approval, if there was an approval, because obviously there's no motion or anything on the table, but if the surrounding of the discussion, it would probably need to be incredibly clear that it was due to the unprecedented occurrences of COVID.
Right. And any future decisions of the same nature would also be based on, would have to be based on, individually assessed, based on, circumstances beyond our control or something. I don't want to set a precedent, in other words.
Okay. Does anyone?
Can I just comment that I think that's really important about not setting a precedent. And I think that, you could easily say COVID happens again and say that for some reason, Christine doesn't get to do something for 5 years and then comes back 2 years out and says, well, I never got to do anything. So I want
Right.
to do it now.
Let's be very clear.
It's
Exactly.
I know we're going to get into that when we get into this allotment question. I have some pretty fun feelings.
But with regards for Dustin, the original budget was basic. It's been $5,000 a year for a district governor to travel to within the DG line to travel. So do I have anyone there? This is an action item. So I would need a motion.
So I do want to say one thing on that, because it hasn't been $5,000 a year for everybody.
No, but it's been for the last several years.
No,
Excuse
you're
me.
the first one. I looked back at Dustin's budget and I looked back at my budget, and it was 5,000 for the DG, 4,500 for the elect, and 4,500 for the nominee. This was the first year. And I mean, we're not talking much money.
Okay, thank you for, thank you for
Yeah, I
that.
had recollected that, no, it used to be a
Thank you.
scale in there somewhere.
Thank you. So, and that maybe that's the case then, if this discussion were to have, it's the $4,500 figure that we're talking about.
I wouldn't split hairs. I think if you think it's the right thing to do, then whether it's 4,500 or 5,000, it doesn't matter. It's what's the right thing to do.
Thank you.
And-
Okay, so I would, go ahead, Carol.
Please take into consideration whether you're voting to just authorize the expense reimbursement that's been submitted right now, or
Or an
whether
allotment.
you want to go up to an amount, X amount.
Okay. So I need to see if anybody wants to put a motion out there.
Well, I think that more discussion on, whether or not we're going to increase, if he's only asking for the airfare and the registration on the convention, is that where we're at right now?
That's what he's submitted for.
That's probably because he doesn't have a hotel bill yet.
He
Right.
doesn't have a hotel bill yet.
Right.
Right, Jim, you were getting ready to say something.
Well, yeah, only that if we approve 5,000, he doesn't have to spend it if he wants to go on his own nickel. But I think the way I interpreted it is he was being conservative in his request, or what Carol just said, that's all he's submitted so far. So anyway, I think we keep with the 5,000.
So I make a motion that we approve $5,000 from the district reserve to fund Dustin to go to Melbourne.
I'll second.
Should we add to the motion I don't know, you guys can word it better than me, as far as the reasoning why, so we aren't establishing some kind of precedence, it sounds a little vague. Is there a way of
Okay.
wording that?
Yeah, right.
Please.
Hey, I got one quick question while we're here. Did you stop recording, or is this all in the recorded version?
It's still in the recorded version, but we can remove this part if you guys feel that it needs to be, but
Yeah, I'm probably good either way. I was just pointing that out. We asked
Yeah,
Dustin to
that's a good
leave,
point.
and now we're recording it.
Yeah.
So anyway, okay, so may I retract and amend my motion then? So that the motion, the first half still is that we approve up to $5,000 from the district reserve to fund Dustin Littlefield to go to the Rotary Convention in Melbourne, Australia, due to the fact that 2 previous conventions were canceled and Dustin was not allowed the opportunity to utilize the money in the budget for his DG year to go to a convention. Is that better, Jim?
I'll second that.
Now, yeah, I believe it is.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion from
second.
Doug and a second from Tom. Is there any further discussion regarding the motion and the second that's on the floor?
Well, are we gonna limit, if this comes up again for the next convention that he would be eligible for, since he passed up 2, are we gonna address that at that time or with this motion?
This would be, I think, I mean, it's really strictly for the motion that, the request and the motion that's on the table is just for this particular convention of Melbourne for the immediate past district governor who missed 2. But this is the only convention that's on the table here.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I,
Opposed? And motion passes. And for the purposes of the minutes, it would be an abstention from Dustin.
and I apologize for not being on camera, everyone. I'm in a hotel and my internet's unstable, so I'm staying off camera. So just wanted to apologize for that.
No worries. Okay. So I just went ahead and texted him. He can come back on and we'll let him know. I think it was appropriate that we had that discussion.
He'd actually recuse himself from the vote, so not abstain.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. That's what I meant to say. He recused himself from the vote. So, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So we'll get him back on. And then we're going to have the next, make sure he's popping on.
There he is.
Oh, he's on. Good. Okay, perfect. Okay, so he's come back on. All right, Dustin, welcome back. We had a discussion on the request for the reimbursement for the Melbourne expenses, and it was the motion to provide you with a $5,000 allotment of approved convention expenses was made and was passed. So you will have those available for you for the convention travel to make up for the fact that during COVID, there was a convention missed. So again, remember to please review the bylaws, make sure that you understand and are very clear on what expenses are reimbursable by a district governor for convention expenses, and those will be covered up to the $5,000 allotment. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Any questions? Okay, great. So the discussion item that we have here with regards to the international convention allotments, and I really probably should have flipped these. I didn't, so I apologize about that. But because of the fact that there are, in Tom, and I'll probably have the other district governors comment on this as well. Currently, the every year a budget is done, and thank you, Doug, for clarifying the amounts on that, but every year a budget is done for an allotment for the district governor line to attend an international convention. Every 3rd year the convention is held here in North America. I think it's usually every 3rd year. I don't know if that's a requirement, but it seems to be that. And so it's a lot cheaper for us to be able to attend a convention in the United States than it is for people to go to someplace foreign, like in Melbourne or a Singapore. So the allotment, as per the bylaws, is to allow for economy fare travel, hotels for the convention itself, for both the district governor and their partner. And The Melbourne trip this year, it's very expensive to travel to Melbourne. And so there sometimes could be cost prohibitive to be able to go somewhere. So a discussion was had, and this is strictly a discussion. This is not an action item. This is something to kind of put out, because if it's something that the board wants to pursue more, then it would be a change actually to our APNPs and our bylaws going forward. But instead of having it be within a silo within a year, you use it in that year or you lose it, is to provide an allotment for the district governor line to travel to a international convention or all of them. But instead of having it be siloed, it would be one bucket of money. So for example, if someone, if Christine decided she next year wanted to go to Singapore, but she didn't want to go to the conventions after that, then she's utilizing more of her allotment in the current year and skipping ahead. So once you use that allotment, use the allotment. And the idea is that it would be the DG line, the nominee, the district governor-elect, the district governor, and the immediate past district governor. So it would be an allotment for that 4-year period of time. So that is basically a discussion item. And I know that I'm just throwing it out there to see if there is board interest in actually pursuing that discussion as more of an action item, or if it is right off the bat, no, we want to keep it in the manner that it's in. So Tom, if you want to comment.
Yeah.
Take that further.
So I know that I mean the dollars have been submitted based on the economy program, and but I know that as we look at next year, I mean, I'm actually taking on a little bit of additional cost on this one. That's my own personal choice on it. Well, let's say it's Melody's choice. But I'm looking at next year and I'm saying, I am perfectly fine with the idea that I will be attending the Melbourne convention. It gives me an opportunity in my line of this. I've had now Houston and Melbourne, and I'm looking at the whole Singapore scene and saying that the cost factor on Singapore for me would be out of touch. I don't necessarily want to have to put out that outlay. Now, it's not required that a district governor actually has to attend the conventions, yet I think that there's a great connection that happens there, and I think that it's an opportunity. And as we talked earlier with regard to getting Dustin an opportunity to attend one of these, I think that it has great merit. So in my budget for next year, I had allocated, we are allocated what, $5,000 a piece across the board or something like that for the international conference or convention. And I just as soon take the 5 that I had allocated and split that and give that opportunity back over to Jim as the DGE and to Christine as the DGN to be there and represent the district and have an opportunity to try and make the most of that situation. The dollars, all I've done is just shifted the dollars out of my column and handed those dollars back into the columns of the other individuals who I feel would represent us.
The other comment that I'll make on this is that if it's a pathway that the board wants to go down of doing the allotments as a bucket of money, and that it would cover the DG line plus potential 1 year as immediate past district governor, I would not be accessing those funds at all. So it would not, as an immediate past district governor, it is not something that I would be putting in a request for, because it would be something going forward. It's not retroactive. If that were to ever come down, if this were to be something that we wanted to do going forward, it would not apply to me.
I got a question there. If the rationale is the conferences are expensive and the 15,000 doesn't cover 3 conferences, then why are we adding a 4th one for an immediate past district governor?
you don't, it doesn't have to be there. It's more of just if for some reason, and that's the idea behind it is that if something came along, but I'm kind of on the fence with regards to whether there should be a fourth line in there. It's just a bucket of money that would be utilized to cover that. I'm on the fence as to whether or not the immediate past district governor should be included in there. I'm not going to access it. So it's not anything that would be for me. It would be going forward historically.
Right. So Carol, let me just, ask that question. Does that mess with closing out the books on a district governor to potentially have an expense a year later?
Yes. It does.
I thought so.
It's a pain to track it because, and even what we did with Tom's budget, with allocating that $15,000 and said, instead of going 555, we went blank 7,500. It's interesting to do that. What if the next year is San Francisco? It's not going to cost us very much money to go to San Francisco. It's almost like we should be budgeting. And this is what Tom and I talked about this is my first go round of creating a district budget and working with the team. You got to pay attention to where you're going. If you're going to Melbourne, it's more expensive than going to Houston.
And that's the point, is that we know where the next three international conventions are going to be. So Christine knows what three, she's district governor designate nominee or whatever that thing's called right at the moment. She knows the next 3 years of conferences. The case will be is a district governor has to, so you have two choices as far as I see it, is either the district governor elect who's doing their budget has to estimate what it's going to cost to travel to a specific area and build that into the budget for that year. But now that district governor elect building their budget, if it's in San Francisco, now they've got a whole bunch more money to do other things with in their budget, whereas a district governor elect that's got Melbourne or Singapore has to budget more for district Rotary International Convention, which leaves them less money for other things within the district. So it becomes sort of an inequality for budgets if you're trying to budget in silos based upon whether a convention is in San Francisco versus Singapore. So the idea is that instead of having it be siloed, you're trying to create a bucket of money that a DG line has to choose to which conventions they want to go for and how they want to divvy out their money for their travel for 3 years, as opposed to it being, and again, the logistic part of it may not work, but if you're trying to, like if I had put into the budget what the true cost of what it was going to cost for 3 DG lines to go to Melbourne, there wouldn't have been any money in the district governor, the 2022-23 budget to do anything else, right? So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. And that's the reason why it's at the board level to have a conversation about.
So one of the ways that we could approach this is, first of all, I don't think that you should just assume that, it's 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, and that's a given. It isn't a given. It's something that it's the way that it's been. But so one of the things you could do is you could have your chunk, and we could just keep track of the treasurer, whoever is in this position, could just keep track of during those 3 years. I just add up, Jennifer, every time you send in an expense reimbursement that is for a district convention, I just add it up. And if you spend a whole bunch of money the first year because it's in Timbuktu and whatever, then when you're at the end, you're at the end.
But then you have to make sure that then it has to not be a line item on the budget, because if you go $10,000, 10% over that line item, more than 10% over that line item on the budget of $5,000, now you got to get board approval for it.
That's the problem, of course. And the problem that we had with Tom's budget is if they're getting higher, our sources of revenue of dues from the club are getting lower.
Yeah,
We've already talked about the fact that we need to be looking at a dues increase in the next year or two to offset some of those higher expenses. And that's just fact of life. That's the way it is. We are a business here.
But that's a separate discussion. The dues expense is a separate discussion as to how do you allot for
No, I know, but the
governor travel, so that, you know, that if somebody, Houston is X price and Singapore is X price, so that you're not having to get board approval from one year to another because, you know, and you're not hog tying a district governor with their budget, with them trying to make sure that an allotment is reasonable for the location they're going to that year. So
I actually think that this is a pretty complex discussion, and I think it deserves its own kind of meeting.
It does.
Sketching it out and saying, how could we do this? How could we be creative and come up with ways to make this work so that it's fair for everybody and doesn't make the district treasurer think bad thoughts?
So what we need then is we need direction from this board to either kill the conversation and say, no, we want to stay with the direction that we are, or the board needs to say, please form a subcommittee and go have a discussion in more detail based upon the initial discussion and layout of it. So is there some consensus with the board that there wants to be further discussion down this line or not?
I think that I would give consensus to having further discussion about this and keeping the conversation going. We have to kind of keep up with the times, and the reality is just, yeah, Houston is a lot less expensive than Melbourne, and we'll see prices are going up, and it's something we have to address. It's been the same way for a long time, and it's time to look at it and see if we can make it more easy for everybody.
Yeah, I do want to throw in one thing to when you're doing this discussion, because you make a change and starts rippling out to other areas. The district governor nominee is really required to go to the convention because they have a task to do, which is the reception. They have to build it, be there, run it. So if you're a district governor nominee and like Christine next year is Singapore, she has to go. She doesn't have a choice. And so it's not like you get to pick and choose your convention sometimes.
She always has a choice. I mean, there's nothing saying that, you know, I mean, she has a choice.
You'd have to change some. Yeah, I'm just saying you'd have to change something else right now because that's an assigned role.
So can someone just explain to me what year, maybe I just don't know this, what year am I expected to go? Like if we're following the pattern?
Next year.
Okay, that's, I guess I always thought it was the year after that. So that's where I'm a little confused. Okay.
Yeah, so Christine, right now, the way we're set up is your task is to figure out a venue in Singapore and put together a district reception, promote it.
Got it.
And that's what Jim did this year. So he's a good person to talk to.
Got it. Okay.
But
I haven't gotten all that training
but
yet,
still
so I
she can,
apologize.
but still she can put the event together. She can coordinate it. There's nothing in the bylaws that says she has to attend regardless of the cost.
Got it. Oh, okay.
Well,
I don't believe
that's
right
correct,
then?
but you have to run the event too, unless you want to have someone do it for you. That means you have to be there, collect money, sell tickets, organize everything. So
Right.
I did Hamburg, Germany, and it was a lot of work. Everyone else is doing the reception, and I'm doing all the work. I wasn't receiving. I was not socializing as much as I was continuing to work through the event.
Okay. Does anyone else have any comment with regards to Michael? I know, Michael, you've been kind of quiet on this, but I mean, we need to form a committee. I've already kind of we did a proposal of what was suggested. That's all been kind of written out in a policy portion. So I don't know what else I would really have to add to it, but if there's someone who wants to take on chairing a further discussion committee on this, and then if that's what the direction to the board from the board is to continue this conversation with regards to the allotments, I would want to ask somebody to volunteer to head that up.
I'll chair that committee just because I'll be finance chair next year, so it makes sense that I'd be on it anyway. So I'll go ahead and chair that committee.
Great. And I'll of course be on it. That's been.
Okay. Does anyone else have any feedback or questions before we move on to the next discussion item? And we will go ahead and form a committee to bring that back to a July board meeting discussion. Carol?
I would recommend that we try to come in with a recommendation to the board no later than the October board meeting and get it approved, because we want to have it approved and in place prior to any budget being created for the following year.
Yeah, for Jim.
Yeah,
Well,
so that,
hopefully they can bring something back to the July meeting, hopefully. That they'll have something maybe potentially for that meeting, because it does require a bylaw change, which needs to be, has to be voted on by the clubs. If there's going to be a change, it would have to probably be sooner rather than later, but anyway.
okay, well, that
So
would
Dustin,
certainly be desirable, is to do it by the July meeting, but I'm saying no later than September.
Yeah, and do we, is this going to be a subcommittee of the board, just board members? Is that what I understand?
I think it doesn't even need to be the full board. I think that it
Yeah,
needs to
no, understood.
Tre-
Just like
the
I'm just
treasurer.
asking
Nobody
people on the
else
board. So
from-
it'll be essentially me, Carol, and Christine, and anyone else who wants to join in on the
Right.
board currently. Okay.
I don't mind. I mean, I don't have anything going on these days. So, yeah, I mean, but
Okay, very
I'd like to sit in. I think there's some ideas that we can throw around that would be equitable to the district and make it work for the individuals who are being asked to step up. So, yeah, I'd look forward to being a part of that discussion.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Carol, your hand's still up. Are you good?
No, I'm good.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and move on to this other discussion. This is more of an update for the board. As you all remember, the DoubleTree has been holding a $17,000 deposit from the 2021 conference, right, Doug?
Yep.
Okay, that's going to be my year straight. The 2021 conference that was unable to occur because of the COVID situation that was going on. So we've been in conversations with the DoubleTree. Michael Fish, who is an attorney from another neighboring district, has been assisting with us. So it was originally a $55,000 contract, and the DoubleTree, we're still finalizing a few details of it, but the DoubleTree has reduced that contract significantly. And at this point, and I've been playing telephone tag with Shelley, going back and forth, because I've been having phone conversations with her at this point, as opposed to putting anything really in writing. But essentially what has come out of it, and Jim had a wonderful idea to do a peace conference. There's a very large peace conference that's going on back in Birmingham, Alabama, that Jim brought to us. And we were looking for ways where we could really do something impactful that would potentially bring in members from neighboring districts and have some pretty good speakers. So we were working on some foundation dinner ideas to be able to bring in some speakers. I do have a request out to Jennifer Jones to be a foundation dinner. I've been working through Brad Howard on that. So I'm still leaving the request out to maybe potentially do something in November. But we also have the ability to do an event through the end of 2025. They extended it if we do a single event. So we're making some major inroads. And again, what we're going to hope to do, and this again was a wonderful idea that came through Jim, is to do a peace conference early in 2025 at the DoubleTree, which would give plenty of time to plan for that. Also potentially get some really nice speakers, some really good content that would hopefully attract in other Rotarians from neighboring districts that might like to attend and feel, focus a little bit more on the peace conference type. So that is where we are with that. We are going to get that $17,000 used. And the DoubleTree, like I said, has been working with us and has lowered that minimum down. We're currently at about 37,000 on the contract, and I'm going to see if I can reduce it, even though I think that it'll be more than that. But from a contractual standpoint, I think we can probably even whittle that down a little bit more. So we're making some major inroads on that. Does anybody have any questions on that $17,000 conference credit?
No, but a comment. I know you've been putting in a lot of extra time on this, so thank you for all your extra effort. I mean, you have been putting a phenomenal amount into time, so thank
It's a
you.
team, it's been definitely been a team effort. It's one of the things, but we're making progress. So thank you, Dustin. Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, perfect. So I will keep you guys updated on that. By all means, once we get something solidified, obviously we'll come back to you with that. And then Tom.
Yeah. So, yeah, Christine, as you move on up the food chain here, then you lose your position as a board member. Well, you're going to be a board member. You're automatically onto the
Right,
board voting and all that.
That
However,
worked out well.
yeah, but I need to find someone from the South who can take your place. And evidently, I only get to place them for 1 year. Is that correct? So
It finishes out her
term.
term.
Yeah, I'll be looking for somebody in the South that we can have sit in on the board for 1 year term. And then it'll be Jim's opportunity to bring somebody in during his year to take the 3-year role as a board member. So I don't have any, I don't have anybody in mind yet, but I will, I'll accept any kind of suggestions from anybody that, it's interesting to be able to get them in for 1 year.
Yeah, I thought that Wolf had sent a note. I don't know if you were copied on that. I'll see if I can find that. He
And
had had
essentially, they just have to be a past president or current president.
right.
They have to have attended, they still have to reach this doesn't have to be a vote by the club. The district governor can appoint for that one person, and it has to be for those counties, which is Sonoma and
I think it's just Sonoma. I don't think it's Napa on this one.
Sonoma County. Mhm.
Yeah.
And so you'll appoint, and they just have to be a past president. They have to have attended 3 years. They have to have been in Rotary for 5 years. Have to have attended 3 district events. So.
Okay.
As you're choosing that person. So that person will be appointed with the effective date of July 1st. Any questions on that item? We just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that there will
Hey,
be.
Tom, sorry, Jennifer, are you looking for some suggestions?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so maybe take those offline and.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Tom, for that. And then just a district conference update. Hope to see you all there May 4th through the 7th. We're currently without the Youth Exchange and Rotex sitting at about 190. Every time I hit refresh, there's about another 5 to 10 that are registering for the event. So I'm anticipating that registration is going to close on Friday, the 27th or the 28th, whatever that date is. So I'm anticipating that we'll probably be real close to that 225 to 250, booking up all of the rooms. There is RV space available, and it's going to be a really great conference. So I hope to be able to see all of you there. The Friday excursions through Lake County are getting quite a bit of traction. People are embracing the fact that really, district conferences for so long now we haven't had them. And then Dustin had a great one last year, and Tom's got another one great coming up this year. And I guess this one's probably going back to a little bit of that traditional multi-day conference where people have some time to actually, be together and kind of have a little bit of vacation mode. So the Lake County Rotarians have been coming together. We're working arm in arm with the folks over at Canocti to just finish up a few things. We have a work party coming up here where we're putting out all of the patio furniture around the pool. And so this is true Rotary style of working together to resurrect this resort that's been closed for 15 years. So it's going to be a really wonderful time. I hope that you all come. We've got some wonderful sponsors that have been supportive of it. We're doing the lip sync. So if your club hasn't signed up for the lip sync competition, please do. It's going to be a lot of fun.
So mine came in a little late, Jen. So if it came in late, we can still do it.
You're still good. As a matter of fact, I'd love to get a few more acts.
I had to have a meeting first to get consensus on the song.
Please do. Yeah. And just make sure
it's already set.
You submit that so we can get you the music file that you want. Youth Exchange is going to be incorporated through the whole thing. So I'm pretty excited about that. So anyway, we've got a really, really good agenda, and I hope to see you. I hope to see you all there. It's just going to be a really wonderful time. If any of the clubs want to do a project, just display or a table or anything, we have a whole project fair going on, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. We're using up the Lake County environmental grants. We're doing a garden. We've got a garden project on Saturday afternoon that we're going to be, not vegetable, but a Rotary garden that will be forever commemorated with a plaque that represents the Rotary reopening this resort. So we've got some really great things going on. So I'm very pleased with the numbers that are coming through, and I think it's going to be a good time. This is historic. It'll never happen again. We have the whole resort to ourselves. So we're reopening this thing, and we'll see what happens. Lots of music, lots of fun times. So any questions on district conference? Okay. And then I think we're coming up here on the end. Do we have anything from Tom? This is my last board meeting. I don't know if you've picked your board dates for next year, but Tom's getting ready to roll into the seat here soon. So Tom, anything?
Yeah, I start to understand what the E is all about. Anyhow, it's been a great quarter so far. I mean, a lot of different activities going on, a lot of outreach. We have a new membership chair for the district, and I'm delighted that and that is Patrick Dunn, and he is with the Windsor Club. He's got a corporate background, and he's just really excited about trying to increase the numbers. Patrick also has Marty Bear, who's with the Santa Rosa Sunrise Club. Marty has been involved with the Sonoma Symphony for quite a while, and also he's really up on helping and being a part of the membership. Jack Strange, who is with the Santa Rosa Sunrise also, I believe, is another person who wants to be a part of that team. And then Mara, and I can't recall her last name, but she's with the Sonoma Springs.
Mara Khan.
Pardon me?
Khan.
Okay, yeah. So, and she is also joining it. So we've had kind of a situation where, George, I got to reach out to George and say thank you for all of the time that he's done it, but his work schedule has taken him out of this role. And I don't think that we've really had a membership presence in the past few years, but now all of a sudden it's looking quite big. We have Maureen Merrill, who has stepped in as a district trainer, or as she likes to call it, a coach. And she's also working alongside with Patrick. And there's some really good fronts going on. We're working right now on trying to develop a veteran-based club, brand new club. We're working on a program with I'm gonna lose it because I didn't put my notes down on it. The other one is that I have had a conversation with a woman with the Federated Indians Family Development Program. She works with 7 different tribes. She's excited about talking about how they might be able to get involved in Rotary, and so we're looking to have a lunch with her and her team, and I've got a meeting going on this Thursday with Maureen and Patrick to be able to come in and lay out what we can do and how we can work it. The other thing that I've done is I've reached out to the scout executive for the Boy Scouts program for Sonoma and Mendocino. And really that was a follow-up to the question that Jennifer and I had received from a club in Napa, asking whether or not they could sponsor a troop. And in fact, we have a lot of districts that are sponsoring troops, and there was some good response that we got back from the membership people in RI, and everything that they asked for seems to be everything that is in place, insurances and everything else, to make sure that that program goes. But while talking about whether or not Rotary has had a place within the scouting organization, we started talking about programs our Interact program. I'd like to get Pat Miller to sit down and talk about the Interact program, because the Scout executive would like to be able to be involved in a conversation to see how we might be able to expand and coordinate so that we might be able to expand our Interact program and tie it back in with some of the scouting program. And then also they have a program called Venture, which is a male-female young professionals. And there's some interest there to find out more about what Rotaract is. So I think it's been really a powerful last few weeks, last month. And I'm looking forward to seeing some of these things develop and move forward. I think the other part is that we talked about mental health, and I've got a group of about 6 individuals that would like to participate in a steering committee to try and figure out what kind of a program we might be able to do to follow up on Gordon McAnally's interest in seeing Rotary ask the question, how are you really? So I'm really excited about that, because I think that we can focus on either seniors or youth, or possibly even both. And I'm excited about the quality of the individuals that are stepping into this. That are, some are clinicians, others are counselors, school counselors, and what have you. And so I think that we have a good core going on. And I'm going to present on Tuesday evening to my president-elects and ask them again to bring it out to their clubs and see if there are more individuals that would like to be a part of the steering committee, with the idea being that we create a program and be able to hand off programs that clubs don't have to try and reinvent the wheel, that they can take something and say, oh, this is something I can move forward, and it's a program to try and help stimulate the idea of promoting positive images for mental health.
You have been busy.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean,
You've been busy.
You know, it's great though. I'm excited about it. And I need to talk with. I met with the environmental committee with Peter Hoberg and with Barbara McChesney, and we're devoting. We're going to change up a page on the website to be able to do more for them. And I have a couple of other things that in mind too. I'm working on something. I want to make a donation to the district for an environmental page, with the idea being that we can move forward and try and get individuals to join us to help work on the environment. So maybe this is the openings for an e-club where
well, we're working. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. So we are working on creating that environmental e-club. Even though it's going to be an e-club, the idea behind it is we start an e-club, and then they can start developing little satellite clubs off of that e-club in specific areas. So like if Humboldt County wanted to have a satellite club, if they wanted to have one in Napa, it would be a satellite off of the e-club, to where then if they eventually got to where they had 20 members in the satellite, they could break off and make their own environmental Rotary Club of Arcata or whatever. But so anyway, that's one of the things we're still working on too, is bringing that e-club up.
And I think the tool, I've been working independently with a different district in Idaho, and we've created this program that allows for, you can divide up the district into different areas, and people who have projects going on in those different areas of the district can go there. Well, the same thing can happen with regard to our environmental program, that we can have the north, the central, and the south, because there's different elements that go on for each of those. But this would be something where our clubs could actually put the projects in that they're looking for help, and be able to promote that and give them some kind of a face on it. So that's all I have going on.
Good. Well, you know what? You're getting ready to hit the ground running. So thanks for all your work that you're doing. Jim, do you have any district governor nominee update that you want?
Just a little bit, not quite as much as Tom, although I think I've been busy. But first of all, I thought district training was fabulous. I thought the spirit there was as good as I've ever witnessed it in the last 20 years. So congratulations, Tom. And it was really good. I mean, it just, we only had a few folks go because unfortunately there was a 3-club fundraiser on the same day. But the feedback from the couple of folks from my club was extremely strong. but just Joanne and I were there and at the district training. I just thought everyone was buoyed. You know, it felt real good energy, and I thought all the sessions I sat in were really, really good. So I did contact Michael Ragsdale, and I have confirmed that we're going to do the district training on April 6th next year. So that's all settled as far as the getting the conference center. And now I got to put together a team to spin off of what we did this year, and I'm sure we will. So that's great. Also, I did schedule May 1 to 4 in Fortuna in 25 for our district conference. So that's on the book. So what I've been working on is my calendar, obviously, and trying to get things settled. And now that peace conference, which just came up a few nights ago, has been swirling in my mind. And that would be the end of February in 25 so far. We have obviously a few ducks to get in a row, but I think the sooner the better. And I'm intending over the next couple of weeks, as soon as Jennifer does the last conversation with the DoubleTree, to contact my colleagues in the 7 surrounding districts to see if they'd like to participate. Because I think this is a event that can go big. And that would be my intent, to make it big. And there is one, unfortunately, it's the same weekend as Canocti. Otherwise, I would go to it in Alabama. I'm going to be in Tennessee the week before, leading up to it, but so we could drive down, but that's another story. So that's kind of where my head's been at, is getting those things planned and on the books. And so we know the dates, and we can get the nuts and bolts of them starting to be put in place. I think that's all I have. Again, it's been a great year, by the way, you know, and I appreciate Jennifer and Tom and the tutelage you guys have given me, and Dustin and Doug and Carol and everyone. It really has been an interesting learning curve. Yeah, but it's been enjoyable. So.
Well, thank you for getting on it so quickly. You're setting a good example of having all those dates picked. So thank you for that. So,
Yeah.
All right. So I think that we are at the end of this.
I can ask a quick question, Jennifer?
Yeah, of course.
Just real quickly. A question for Tom. Have you decided when you want to schedule your board meetings next year? And then I can go ahead and set that up. Do you want to follow the same calendar that Jennifer has followed, or do you have something new in mind?
I think it probably just makes sense just to continue on with the same. I mean, the next one is July, right? That's the kickoff one, and then yeah, let's just hold to that and just go over every 3 months on it.
All right.
So then it would be let's see, what have we been doing? The 3rd?
The dates would change, but the day would be the same, I think.
So that if you go with because I was trying to do the 3rd Saturday, I think is kind of what it was sort of intended to be. So the next board meeting upon that, it would be July 15th.
That's what I see. Yeah. Okay, I can set those up.
If that sounds good with you, Tom, that would be your.
Yeah, that's great. And I have, I mean, I'm currently still trying to nail down my visitation schedule, and I've got Valerie who's been working on that. So any dates that we get, if you shoot them over to me, then I'll make sure that Valerie's got them, and she has control of my calendar in my Gmail stuff and all that. So that'd be great.
All right. So if nobody has anything else, I just want to, this is my final board meeting as district governor, and just thank you all, thank you, Michael and Christine, for being on as our at-large members. Brad Medham was our final at-large. This would have been his final one as well. But I just, I want to thank you guys. It's a commitment to do this, and and especially to Carol and to Mary, it is definitely a thankless, it's a thankless job. So I periodically try to just say thank you. And this is one of those opportunities to say thank you to both of you. You make things so easy. And the thing that I appreciate about the two of you is you understand the whirling dervish, which is this job that we are, and you're so patient. You've been so patient with me and so calming and just sort of kind of help guide me along. It's almost like you sort of get it, even though you haven't done this whole district governor thing, but you just give me a good hug and keep me going. And I just wanted to thank you for all the two of you especially are doing. And the district governor line, the district is in very good hands. And I think one of the things as we travel around, as I've traveled around the world with other Rotary districts, we are unique. It's very unusual that the district governors get along as well as we all do and work together as well as we all do. There are a lot of districts out there where they don't even speak to each other. So I appreciate the fact that this has been a team effort. I can cry uncle, like I've done several times and said, okay, I'm crying uncle, I need help. And that's really the beauty of this. And we need to definitely continue that into the future and just continue to grow on it. And remember that it's a team. This is not my year. This is my experience of being able to have the opportunity and the privilege to lead. But that's all it is. It's an opportunity and we are part of something much bigger. So I appreciate all of you. Get outside, go enjoy that beautiful weather that we've got going on. And thank you so much for giving a couple of your hours of your time this morning. Hope to see you all at district conference. It's going to be a lot of fun. If you have any questions or need anything on that, please let me know. And now I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Tom. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second. Oh,
Oh, we
go
got all
ahead.
kinds of seconds. Thank you, Jim, for that. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Thanks,
And with
Jennifer,
that, we're
for a great
adjourned. You
year.
guys enjoy
Thank you,
enjoy your day.
Thanks, Jennifer.
See ya.
Thanks,
Bye.
Jennifer.
All right. Have a good day, everybody.
Aye.
Bye.